Hi guys, welcome back to the big sew along. I'm Ginny, and as always I am really thrilled that you guys take some time to spend with me each week. Before we get to our sew along today, I wanted to say I did get a few shirt pattern suggestions in the comments last week, but as a reminder, our next sew along after we finish this Marcy Tilton for Vogue 1817, so when we're starting today, once we finish this, we're gonna try to do a shirt. So if you have a shirt pattern you're really interested in sewing, please leave the pattern for me in the comments so I can check it out and get a list of a few together that we could all vote on. Also in the comments, Allison asked me if I could please tell you guys what I'm wearing when I'm sitting here talking to you. And I apologize. I love it when other people do that, and I forget every single time. So thank you, Allison, for the reminder. And that leads us to a nice, that's a nice segue, I guess, into what I'm wearing today. In honor of starting another Marcy Tilton sew along, I decided to wear my Vogue 1694, which is also a Marcy Tilton pattern. I don't know if you guys remember this. We did a sew along for this. I think it was in May, and I can't remember. It has this, like, I'll step back so you can see a little bit. It has this one side pocket over here and a different kind of pocket over here. It's got an asymmetric V-neck over here. And I made it in this stripy cotton linen fabric that was a real nightmare for me to match up. But anyways, aside from that, I haven't worn this before. I did have it on display at the fabric store for a month or so, and then it was just way too hot for me to wear it. It's calmed down now temperature-wise. We're in the first week of September, so it's a little bit cooler, at least for the moment. And yeah, so I broke this out today in honor of starting a new Marcy Tilton sew along. If you guys are interested in seeing the sew along for this, I'll just link it for you in the notes below. Okay. I have a lot to get through today, so I can't chat too much. Today, we're assembling the back of our pattern, Vogue 1817. The back consists of 4 pieces. In the tutorial, you will see me making the vest version, which is view A. Yeah, view A. For that version, you're using pattern pieces 1, 2, 3, and 4. And so when I'm talking in the video, I refer to piece 1, 2, 3, and 4. If you're making view B, which is the jacket, you are going to want to use pattern piece number 19 instead of pattern piece number 1. So for the jacket, the pattern pieces are 19, 2, 3, and 4 instead of 1, 2, 3, and 4. Alright, I hope that makes sense. I think that is all I have to say for the moment. We will come right back after the tutorial and do a little more talking. Okay, we're going to start with piece number 1, which is our main back piece. I have already stay stitched all my curved edges, so both both armholes, the neck hole, and then this curve down here. It's hard to see on this fabric. It's hard for me to see my notches, so I've also marked them with a pin. So that's piece number 1. Piece number 2 is our facing piece that looks like this. I have also stay stitched this inner curve here just to keep it from stretching. All these curves have a lot of bias. And since we're not using interfacing on this, that interfacing will go a long way to preventing that stretch. But since we're not doing that, I think it's doubly important to do our stay stitching. Okay, so we're going to put these right sides together, and we're going to match this notch here first. And then I'm going to match this down here. I do have, looks like maybe my underpiece might have got stretched out a little bit. It should match up just like that. So you can see this flat edge right here will lay up against this flat edge here. Just like that. And more pins in here. Same thing over here. This edge right here is not going to match up with this edge. It's going to come over, but this corner should meet with the corner of the main body piece. Oh, I forgot to say, you guys, I also serged the long edge of this facing piece. I don't know if you can see that. This edge right here is already serged. If you don't want to serge it, you can finish it however you like, but do that before we put it on. All right, now we're just going to sew this on with our 5/8 inch seam allowance. We're going to press the seam allowance towards the facing. And you may need to put some clips in it once you've sewn it, just to get it to lay flat. And then we will understitch the seam allowance to our facing piece. Okay, just a quick note here. Step 1, and I've already messed something up. When you sew this piece on, there is a dot right here on your pattern. It's really hard to see on my fabric, so it's right here. Sew from here to here, but stop at that dot. You need this edge to be free, okay? I have not understitched this yet because I want to talk to you about pressing really quickly. Whenever I press something like this, I press from the top side. So I'm just going to show you on this little thing right here. I would press it like this. Make sure your seam allowance is all facing this direction, and then press this way. And then after you do that, you can go to the back side and make sure that you don't have any wrinkles in here, and you can press those out if you need to. The reason I do that is because if you press from the wrong side like this and just press like this, oftentimes you will get something that looks like this. And I've exaggerated it on this piece so you can see it. You'll get like a little, almost like a pleat right there at the seam line, and it's more obvious here. And you obviously don't want that. So in order to prevent that from happening, if you press it this way from the front first, you can avoid that happening. Okay, now back to this. Now I'm just going to go do my understitching, which is right along this edge, about 1/8 of an inch away from my seam line on the facing side, and I'm just going to be sure that I'm catching my seam allowance on it the whole way down. Okay, now we have our understitching done all the way around here, and you can see, hopefully, that I've stopped my understitching just before I get to this stop point of my stitching. So this edge is still free. Now, what we need to do is match this edge right here. Sorry, I'm going to try to open it out. This edge right here with this edge right here, which is going to be a little tricky. So what we're going to do is, I'm going to flip this over, and from the wrong side, I'm holding my facing piece out of the way, and I'm just going to clip just my main jacket piece, and I'm going to clip right into where I stopped stitching. So now that's a little bit free. Okay, now we're going to flip this up, and we're going to put those two edges together like that. So it looks like that. And on the other side it looks like that. And this right here is our little slit. Now we're just going to go sew that. Okay, so that's sewn together, and the bottom of your jacket piece, the hem, this piece right here, should also be serged before you start putting on the facing. So that's 2 mistakes in 30 minutes. Anyway, we have that sewn on now, and that is all that's doing is creating a nice mitered corner here. So hopefully you see that's your hem and that's your curved edge. Now we have this big hunk of fabric here. We're going to trim this corner down And then we're going to press this little seam open, just like that. And then turn it to the inside. I might have to clip mine a little more. Once you have it turned to the inside, it'll look something like this. This facing will get folded up like this. Your hem will get turned up like this. This is a I think it's 1 5/8 inches hem. Once you have this all pressed and in place, all you're gonna do is baste this down all along this edge, down here and around your curve. Okay, so this is what our back looks like so far. This is the right side, and this is the wrong side. This is just basted down right now. Okay, we're gonna put this aside, and we're gonna move on to piece number 3, which looks like this. And we're gonna serge, make sure I can see the whole thing in there. Yeah, we're gonna serge this top edge and this bottom edge. Both of these curved edges are getting serged. Then we're gonna run 2 rows of gathering stitches between your dots on the top edge. So it's from here to here. And I've run 2 rows. And then we're gonna just gather, I guess, we can go ahead and gather these. I don't know yet how much, because we'll have to put it against our other pattern to see, but it looks like a fair amount of gathering here. So I'm gonna go ahead and gather it up. When we go to put this on to the top part of the back, we can always add more gathering or release some gathering, depending on how it's fitting onto the other piece. This section right here, these are 2 pleats, and we have 4 dots marked on here for each pleat, and we're going to line them up. So this one and this one are going to meet this one and this one. And we're doing this with the right side up. So we're just going to put those 2 together, just like that. And I'm going to pin that right in place. And then these 2 down here are also going to meet. And we'll pin those in place. And I'm going to go ahead and put 1 more pin in here. I want to get this fold to lay nice and smoothly. That looks okay. Okay. And you can see once you fold this to the back, this is going to lay right up under there like that. All right, so our second pleat is, see if we can find these dots right here. I've used a heat erase marker, which I tested on this fabric. It does come out pretty well, but it's actually not that easy to see. So these 2 are going to meet just like that. I'm going to pin that in place. And then these 2 are going to meet. I'll pin that in place. And again, I just want to make sure that that pleat is laying nice and flat. You see I have like a big wrinkle right here. Just want to be sure we're not going to have a wrinkle when we put it in, when we sew it. Okay, so that looks good. Now, the instructions tell us to baste these down. So, I am going to baste right along this fold and right along this fold. And then we're going to baste right across the top, holding these sections down. like that. All right, so I hope that's clear. Our pleats are folded and pinned. We're gonna baste them down vertically, and then we're gonna baste horizontally across the top to hold those folded pleats down at the top. Okay, so this is our piece number 3, which is the lower right back. This is what it looks like now. You can see my pleats are basted down and are gathering. Okay, we're gonna put that aside now, and we're gonna move on to piece number 4, which looks like this. Again, we're going to want to serge the top edge and the bottom edge. And again, we have a pleat right here. We're going to match our dots again. So there's one here. And again, this is the right side facing up. There's one here. There is one here. And there's one right here. So we're just going to do the same thing we did before. We're going to put these two, actually I'm going to put the lower ones together first. So those two go together like that. Now we're going to do the exact same thing we did on the other side, on the other pleats, which is to baste this down here and then baste across the top here. Okay, so that's that pleat basted in, and now that I'm looking at this, I can see that this edge right here also needs to be serged, so I'm going to go back and do that, but just for future reference, it might be easier to just, in the beginning, just serge the bottom edge and then make your pleat and then serge this all at once. Okay, so this is our lower left back, and now we need to go back to our piece number 3, which is our lower right back, this one. And these two get sewn together right here. There are 2 dots on this piece, one right here and one right here. And on this piece, this is the right side, so I'm going to sew these sides together. Okay, now we're just going to go sew that seam. We're going to sew from our first pin here to our last pin here. Okay, so this is what our lower back looks like at the moment. However, the instructions have told us where to serge all along, but we don't have any serging on this seam. And we just sewed. And when I'm looking through the directions, I don't see where that would come into play, like where this would get serged. So I think I'm going to serge mine together. Actually, I think I'm going to open this up, serge each piece, and then sew them back together before we attach this to the bottom, to the top. Okay, so I have gone ahead and I took that apart and I serged each piece individually, you can see, and then I sewed them back together, and I've pressed them towards the smaller piece, which I think is piece number 4. I have no idea if that's going to work, but that's what we're going with at the moment. So the next thing we need to do is go back to piece number 1, which looks like this, our upper back piece. Where am I? Here we go. Looks like this. Now we're going to turn it wrong side up like this, and I'm going to push it. You're not going to be able to see the top, but you don't really need to. This edge is what we need to see. And now we're going to take this piece, our pieces number 3 and 4 that we just put together, and we're going to lay it down on here, and we're going to match up. This edge is supposed to match up with this. That is, well, you can see that this is off, so I don't know what the story is with that, but I'm going to line it up like that so that my corners, this corner here and this corner here, match up. Okay, so we're going to pin this down here like that. I have no idea what this situation over here is about, but we'll get to that in a minute. And then we're going to go over here. Now remember, this is the part that's gathered, so we may need to pull some of this gathering out. It looks like I'm going to pull a fair amount of it out. Okay, so for this to meet up, for this edge to meet up with the edge of my top over here, you're really not going to have very much gathering. But there we go. What you do have, just make sure it's nice and even. I'm going to go through there and sort of even that out a little bit, but it's really like almost no gathering right there. And this edge is supposed to lay right against this edge is supposed to lay right against this serged edge, so I don't know how else that would work. Okay, once you have this in place, you're going to go back to your sewing machine and baste this down. Baste right along this edge somewhere. And then, once you have it basted down, you're going to turn this right side up, and you're going to sew right on top of these basting stitches you have here. Right along this basting stitch and around here. And you're just going to use your regular sewing stitch for that. But see, and this looks really weird to me, but it is the way it is in the picture. I don't know if you're going to be able to see this right here. This point is definitely off center. So I guess we'll leave it. And we'll deal with this excess. I mean, probably I'm just going to cut it off, but we will wait till we put our front and our back together and see if that's how we want to deal with it. Alright, you guys, here we go. This is our back completely assembled. So top is obviously fine. This is the bottom. I went ahead and removed my basting stitches that were holding my pleats down because the instructions don't tell you what else to do with them. Like, I would assume that if you have them basted down, you would either pull the basting out or use top stitching, but the directions tell you neither of those things, so I just pulled it out. I assume that's gonna work. I did that on this pleat here also. I measured my distance here, where you can see it's off. This is off of this center seam by 1 inch. My excess over here is 2 inches. So I don't think it's that this is supposed to be over here, and like I said in the picture, it does not look like it's over here. So what I'm going to do is cut this off straight down here. And that is our back. I also feel like I've held this up, and this corner right here sort of like puffs out. So I'm going to wait and see once I get my side seam sewn if that holds this whole thing down better. If it doesn't, I may go through here and hand tack that down or something. But that's our back. Okay, so that's our whole tutorial for today. I did have a couple of issues, as you could see in the tutorial. Piece number, I want to say it was piece number 4, did not fit the pattern. I mean, did not fit the jacket. It was too long by about 2 inches. I did go back and check that little corner to make sure I didn't get it wrong. I'm going to put a picture up here of the line drawing so you can see what I'm talking about. The corner of the jacket is definitely off center from the seam line of the 2 bottom pieces. I don't know. I'm curious to know if anybody else sews this pattern, if they have that same issue, or if I just cut something wrong. The other thing is, this pattern does not call for interfacing. However, I think in my next version I will use interfacing for my hem facings. Mine tended to shift a lot, not only when I was sewing the first seam, but when I folded it up to sew the hem, they also seem to shift a little bit. So I am going to put interfacing in my next one, and we'll see how that goes. I am working on the second version right now, so I should have some more information on that for you by our next video. And I think that's it for this week, guys. As always, I thank you so much for stopping by. If you enjoyed this video, please hit like and subscribe, and for sure, come back and see me next Tuesday when we will be working on the right front and maybe also the left front, just depending on how long it takes. The left front is a little bit repetitive of the right, so we might be able to get them all in one video, but I'm not going to try to squish a lot in there. If it's getting too long, we'll just do the right front. All right, until next week, happy sewing, everyone.